Being joyful is the best way to do anything. So when you are doing self-care, it's not selfish because you're cultivating your own inner peace and your own joy. The world needs more joyful, happy people, and then we'll help so many more people.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. You'll hear a lot of people these days talking about the importance of achieving that work-life balance. Our guest today has been named Life Coach of the Year by International Association of Top Professionals, and this is exactly what she does. Rebecca Whitman has written 3 books related to abundance and has a top 5% globally ranked podcast called Balanced, Beautiful, Abundant. She's also the creator of the 7 Pillars of Abundance, and today we're going to learn about those and the bold moves she has made that brought her right where she is today. But before we share Rebecca's advice on abundance, hey, hit that subscribe button. It's a big favor to us and helps us make sure that we're bringing the best of the best to you.
Just like Rebecca. Welcome to Be Bold Branding, Rebecca.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Yes, we were on your podcast last week. Of course, when we met you the first time, we just had a great conversation. And then we were on your podcast, had a great conversation. So I feel like we're just continuing a great conversation.
Yep, right by the fire, right? The fireside chat with Rebecca.
Every time we talk, it's a great conversation. I'm going to book my flight for Thanksgiving.
I love it.
Come on down. What's your specialty dish, Rebecca?
That's a good, I'm vegan, so I'm not the most favorite Thanksgiving guest, but I would say salad. Not too
okay.
Tanya makes the best salad you'll ever eat. That's the truth. Yes.
He's partial, but
I am partial.
but I can make
but she gets me to eat them, and that's important. So, you know.
That's true.
I know you guys are a couple. The cat's out of the bag on your show.
Yeah, oh, it's out of the bag enough. We don't talk about it usually, but it's all right, you know.
Most people we kind of figure it out by now, right? But occasionally we'll get the question, hey, are you guys a couple?
What our listeners definitely know is the secret to my success is just listening to her.
I'm really impressed by your story, Mike, and how Tanya has totally transformed your business. I'm excited to see that you guys are creating both personally and professionally a ton of abundance and helping so many people. So I'm really excited to be on the show.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. You're a very big benefit to it. So we're going to jump right into this and talk about some bold moves that you've definitely made in your career. Was there a specific event or person in your life that shaped who you are or resulted in what you're doing right now?
Yes. And one of the last conversations with my dad, he was literally at the nursing home on his deathbed. And he said, Rebecca, I want you to write something. I don't care if it's a book, an essay, a magazine article, or a blog. I just want you to write, because he thought I had a very unique perspective. And I had no idea what I was going to write, but I believe that the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, speaks through people. And a few months later, I was sitting in my financial planner's office in workout clothes, and I was, being positive like I always am. And he said, Rebecca, I know that you've lost your dad and you got a divorce, but I'm looking at your portfolio and it's expanding and you're having your best financial year ever. Why don't you teach other women how you're doing it and how you're so resilient? So I wrote a book based on his idea called How to Make a 6-Figure Income Working Part-Time. And it's not a business plan or get rich quick strategy. It's really how to live life in 7 areas so that when they're in balance and alignment, you can have a balanced life and manifest whatever you want, whether that's a 6 or 7-figure business, working part-time, being in the best shape of your life, and finding your soulmate, which I recently did this last year. I just got married in December of 21. So we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. And everything you just said. So, we like the takeaways for our listeners. So there's a lot of takeaways to that. And I know we're definitely going to get into those 7 things, right, that you talked about. But I do agree with you about God speaking through other people and helping guide us into these things that we should be doing and sharing talents that we have. And, building a brand out is so much a part of that, because the why you do things, it resonates with the people people you're talking to, your customers, your clients, your potential clients. Even though we live in this world of, instant gratification and stuff like that, there's not a lot of connection. And internet is great because we can talk to people all over the world, but it's not much of a connector if we don't use it that way. And your brand has to resonate with people that you're trying to help. And the reason you do those things to help them, don't you think?
Yeah, I feel like we live in a high-tech, low-touch society, and people are so connected, but yet they've never been lonelier because they are hiding behind their devices. And that's why one of the pillars of abundance is social, having a social life and connecting with people in person whenever possible. It just enriches your life so much.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So let's take just a moment, Rebecca, because I looked through your 7 pillars of abundance, and of course, every single one of those resonated with me, and I could completely understand why you need to think differently about each one of those and have a plan for each one of those. So tell us, first of all, why 7, and then give us the 7.
Well, I think 7 is a very spiritual, beautiful number, and I just like the number 7. I don't know. I also have a course called 7 Pillars of Attraction. So I just like the number 7. I think it's very powerful. But 7, I came up with them. Actually, I had gone to a course a long time ago. I'm, really big on personal growth and development. And they had a version of 6, but I'm a hopeless romantic. And I'm like, well, I want to set goals and have my love life at a level 10 too. So I added romance, and, people have told me you really need to add creativity, make an 8th pillar of abundance, but I find creativity kind of goes under mental. So the 7 pillars of abundance are spirituality, fitness, emotions, romance, mental, social, and financial. And they are in order of importance. So everybody thinks financial, make a ton of money, then I'll have enough money to hire a personal trainer. I'll look hot. I'll meet my soulmate. We'll go on wonderful spiritual retreats together, and we'll socialize with other couples, and we'll work on our mental or our mindset. And they always focus on the money, 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 money. But then there's so many people we know that are making a ton of money and they're desperately unhappy. I work with a lot of, high profile people that you would think would be happy, but they're desperately unhappy, even though they have all the money in the world. So money cannot come first without the other things to live a balanced life.
I would so agree with that.
Boy, that
1,000%.
That was full of gold,
Mm-hmm.
full of gold. And speaking of gold, hey, follow Rebecca on Instagram. It's Rebecca E. Whitman. Rebecca E. Whitman. Okay.
The thing about money, here's the thing about money. And I've known people with 12 figures, right? I've known people that made a lot of money. I have had opportunities where I have made a lot of money. I've made far more money than I ever thought I would even be able to make money. But here's the truth about money. If you chase money, you will never be satisfied. You will never be satisfied because there's always some other jackleg got more. There's always there's always some other way to try to chase it down, and it has wings and it flies away, and it's very disappointing many, many times. And I can see why that would not be the first thing that you would work on. What is the first thing in those pillars that people should be working on?
Yeah, so they're in order of importance. Spirituality is so important, getting that connection to the divine. And I believe in setting your day up for success by having a morning practice where you do connect to the divine. I have an incredible journal that I found so long ago in the 1990s. I met a woman named Janet, and she sat next to me at a 12-step meeting. She's like, here's how you write a letter to God. And I never saw Janet again, but I've been using that journal formula now for 3 decades. And it's completely transformed my mindset. So I'll be sure to give that to any of your listeners who want that journal. I call it my abundance journal. But I'm a huge believer in writing, praying, meditating, just to set up your day for success, because, we don't know what's going to happen that day. But if we plug into our divine, if we're grounded in our spirituality, then whatever happens to us that day, we can flow with it and just know that we're going to be okay. And I really believe in going with the flow, which is more being in your feminine energy, which is less stressful than pushing everything and trying to force solutions where there are not solutions. So that is the very first pillar of abundance, spirituality.
Yeah, I love that.
I do too.
I love that. Our daughter is trying to buy a house. And because I just encourage all the kids, encourage everybody on earth to buy a house, right? At least one. And so she's doing it, but the first one just didn't work out. And she was getting upset about it. I'm like, look, just calm down. The right one's going to flow so easy. Everything's going to be, and you'll know that it's the right one. If you're running into these obstacles, you do your best to overstep them. But if you have to work to do it, you're pushing an issue that you don't want. And so I totally believe that too. Definitely think when you're in the zone, like the doors fly open for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, I love what you're doing and what you stand for, because when I look at those 7 pillars, I think, gosh, I probably need, perfection in 3 or 4 of those and improvement in the others. Right.
Right.
So when you start to work with, with people and somebody comes to you and says, hey, you know what, like I don't have my priorities straight, or I'm missing something, or I'm just not happy, or I'm not fulfilled. What are the first maybe 2 or 3 things that you do with that person to determine their direction and how you're going to help them?
First of all, we look at the 7 pillars of abundance and look at their life. And usually, like you said, Tanya, there's a couple areas, 2, 3 areas, maybe even 4 that are going really well, that are at a level 10 and they're just killing it. But then there's other areas that need some coaching and support. So we look at their life holistically and see what's going well and what needs some support. And then I have tips, tools, and strategies to get those areas to a level 10. But most people don't even look at their life. Most people are just like, leading lives of quiet desperation, as the quotes go. So I actually have a free quiz on my website, rebeccaelizabethwhitman.com, where you can just look at your life, or also think it's in my Instagram bio, and see there's a quick balance quiz. What areas are going well? What areas do I need support in? And then I help women get support and get those areas to a level 10. And even, everyone has, myself, even with this awareness, sometimes I'm focusing more on my business and not on as much on socializing with friends. But because I have this awareness, I'm like, okay, I want to at least set up 1 social date a week with a friend, just to make sure I'm hitting all 7 pillars of abundance.
Yes.
I think it's fascinating. And I think so many of us don't, because there are a lot of coaches out there who focus on 1 of those, or maybe just 2 of those. Your focus on 7 is quite unique. I really like that. And there's nothing wrong with the fact that they focus on 1 or 2 things. That's awesome. But that's great, in what you do with women. What type of people do you generally, work best with?
I usually work best with women that are achievers, that are just burned out. They did everything they were told to do. They went to the right schools and got married and got kids and got the right job, and they have everything that society told them they should want to have to be successful and to be happy. But usually they're just overwhelmed and depleted because they put everything else above their own happiness. They put approval of society, taking care of their spouse, their kids, people pleasing their boss and their clients. And then they have this soul sickness, like, I've done everything right. Why am I so tired and depressed and unhappy? And I teach them how to put the focus back on themselves. And as I like to say, you have to fill up your own cup first before you can pour it to anybody else. So I teach them how to practice radical self-care so they can fill their own cup first, and then they can pour it into other people. And I'm living this. Like, today's Monday, most people are like stressed out. I've already done yoga and had a bubble bath before this podcast. So I'm like really living this, because I do put a lot of energy out and I serve a lot of people, but I've got to fill myself up first.
That's so true.
Such an amen to that.
True.
So important.
And one of your quotes was, self-care is not selfish, right?
Yes.
Expound on that for me, because I love to hear that. Most people feel very opposite that quote.
Yeah, because women are taught that putting any emphasis on their own happiness and self is selfish, that you're supposed to take care of everyone else and then, go to bed exhausted every night. And people think that if you're exhausted and drained, then you're doing a great job. And self-care is not selfish, because when you are fit, when you're spiritually centered, when you have time with your friends, when you are in a beautiful romance, then you can actually show up better for your boss and your employees and for your kids and for all the other people that are relying on you, because you're joyful. And being joyful is the best way to do anything, whether it's, professional, romance, social. So when you are doing self-care, it's not selfish, because you're cultivating your own inner peace and your own joy. And that's the biggest gift you can give to the world. The world needs more joyful, happy people, because that is not what's happening in the world. There's a collective consciousness of just negativity and hate and anger and bitterness and complaining. And so in order to lift the world up, we get to be our own biggest advocate and practice self-care. And then we'll help so many more people.
I love that. I love that. I want to add a quote to it. It's not an exact quote because I can't remember it, but you'll get the point. We're not battlers of the darkness. We're creators of the light.
Yes.
Right. Right. We can't do anything about the darkness. We can do everything about how much light we put out. And I can get the actual quote for you and email it to you when I find it. But I read that just the other day and I thought, oh, man, that's so good. No, I think you're dead on right. And I think that ladies, I was raised by a single mom in between two sisters. I had a stepsister later on in life. I had, two of my own biological daughters. I have 3 daughters now. I have about 6 adopted daughters, not legally, but we call them, because they work in our organization. We treat them like daughters. I mean, I can't throw a football, but I can braid hair. And so I love women. I love the spirit. I think they're incredibly powerful, but society doesn't just teach women that they need to serve everybody first. Most women feel that. Right. They are givers. They're instinctual givers. Yeah, and so that to retrain that taking care of yourself is very important, because you can't take care of others properly if you don't take care of you. And then that brings so much other joy. Everybody knows, oh, happy wife, happy life. Right. But they look at it like, what can I do to make them happy? And really, the truth of it is they have to take that mantle on. And we try to encourage it in our organization, because burnout is a problem. And you don't want burnout no matter what you're doing, right? I don't want burnout, male or female, right? I teach people, if you come to me and say, I've worked 14 days straight, we're going to have a talk, because you're not taking time for yourself and your family and recharging. And that's just a recipe for disaster. Yeah.
And burnout is really real. I mean, people are encouraged just to work till they pass out. And that's what it takes to be successful. And maybe it does, maybe for certain people, if they have that kind of dynamic, that is success. They work till they're 65 and then they can afford to retire and sip margaritas on the beach. But I don't want that's not my definition of success. I don't want to put my happiness off, 20 or 30 years. I want to live life now and enjoy the moments and feel like I'm appreciating my life, and not, I don't want to live to work. I want to work to live. And if you smart, you don't have to work, 12 or 14 hours a day. You can utilize all the things that you guys teach with branding and real estate and using other people's efforts. So I'm a huge believer in finding your happiness and your joy, and nothing is more beautiful. And I love that you have so many women in your life, Mike, than a happy woman. She's an attraction.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
For sure.
And, both personally and professionally, I mean, we work with a whole lot of people who are burned out, right? Like when they come to us, it's like, okay, I've got, this many books, I've got a podcast, I've got a business I'm trying to run, and I have this hobby over here, and I have kids, and it's like all over the place, and helping them just rein that in and look at those things differently, position themselves differently, leverage some things they're already doing differently. Like you're looking at those 7 pillars of abundance, we're looking at, okay, how can we make this business kind of more abundant and make your brand kind of precede you, step out there in front of you? You're kind of doing the same thing with your clients in a sense, except it's not necessarily with branding. It's about getting them to look at their lives and which of those 7 pillars are they maximizing and which need help, right?
Yes, but when you think about it, Tanya, your life is your brand in this day and age.
So true.
Everything you do, all of those 7 pillars, how you socialize, your romance, your travel, your, healthy eating and fitness, it's all part of your brand. So that is, what we do is so integrated because you are your brand, especially if you're living out loud on social media. People want to see, what are you having for dinner? Who are you having your date night with? Where are you going on vacation? So it's going to help their brand, your clients, to have all 7 pillars of their life in alignment.
Yeah, no
Agreed.
question. No question.
There's something I want to touch on. So, okay, in a perfect world, we've got 7 things of abundance. We've got them in balance, right? But that doesn't happen overnight. So you probably teach a lot about patience, I would guess, right? Because as you're working on each pillar, the universe, if you will, God, for those that believe it, is bringing you those other things, right? So how do you want to touch a minute on how you handle advice on like working towards a goal that has yet to come to fruition and holding on to the belief of that?
Yeah, I mean, women especially, they want to meet their soulmate yesterday. They want to lose those 25 pounds yesterday. But having balance in these areas and optimizing each of these areas, it is not an overnight. You're not going to take like one of my seminars and then, you wake up the next morning and you're, in your best shape of your life and you're on a date with your soulmate. It takes time. And patience is such a beautiful quality to cultivate. It's so beautiful that I'm actually doing a talk at UCLA in January, and the whole talk is going to be on patience. I like the quote, infinite patience brings all things. And it's true. If you can be infinitely patient, you can achieve a level 10 in all these 7 pillars of abundance. But the most important person to be patient with is yourself and your own self-talk. Talking to yourself with compassion. As a recovering perfectionist, I used to beat myself up. I used to get so mad at myself. Well, why don't you have this and why don't you have that? And they have that. So what's your problem? And what's taking you so long? And I didn't know that that was actually pushing off my goals even further into the future by being a perfectionist and by not showing myself patience and self-compassion. So one of the things that I work on cultivating every day is having patience and self-compassion, because it creates so much more peace in my mind. And who wants to live in a mind where the mind is always beating yourself up and telling you you're not good enough? So one of my favorite affirmations, and in my book, there's 21 customized affirmations. This one is not in the book. It's, I am enough. I have enough. I am willing to set myself free.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I like that.
I love it. And that's teaching the patience is that mental part, covers that particular pillar of what you're talking about. Can you give us just maybe a tip on maybe achieving physical abundance? Of course, like you said, you're not going to come into Rebecca's program and wake up tomorrow morning 25 pounds lighter. It's not going to happen.
That's, I know.
Or more, right. Or be able to, run a marathon. But can you give any tips to kind of, okay, this is what you need to do if you want physical abundance?
Yeah. So health is wealth. And if you have your health, you have every opportunity in the world available to you. If you don't have your health, you have nothing available to you. Your number one goal is then just getting healthy. So I met this woman and she made 7 figures in network marketing. She worked 20 hours a day, achieved this huge goal. And then she physically got so sick and burned out that she literally couldn't move for 6 months. She literally could barely get out of bed just to go to the bathroom. So what is the price? Like, what is it for if you can't even get out of bed for 6 months? And she was a young woman in her 30s. So your health is your number one resource. I like to say body before business. Plan your day around your workout. So pick a time every single day that you can work out no matter what. I say the earlier in the day, the better, because as we put it off, just stuff comes up. So in the morning is, preferable. If not, do it at lunch, and do something that you can do consistently. Don't be so overly ambitious. Like, I'm going to train for a marathon and I haven't worked out in 10 years. Maybe it's just walking for 30 minutes around your neighborhood. Maybe if you're super busy at work and you have a corporate job, you're just going to walk up and down the steps 5 times in your building. Like, something that you can stick to, something that is easy, simple, enjoyable, so that you can have consistency, because with consistency in your fitness, you can get results. That's the number one thing, is just to be consistent with it. Do not be a weekend warrior. Don't just go for everything on the weekend. Try to do something that you can do 3 to 5 days a week. It doesn't have to be the hardest workout in the world, as long as you enjoy it and you're consistent.
I love it. I think that is the key to all of it. When we teach people about brands and when we do the hard work with them, I'm like, okay, now you have all these tools. Consistent is the key to where you want to go. And if you can't stay consistent at it, then you're not going to get there. You have to be consistent. Yeah. And I'd like to parlay, because you mentioned warrior. You talk about being an elegant warrior. Do you want to tell us about that?
That is one smooth transition you just made.
Isn't that good?
Thanks for that, Rebecca.
That was good. My avatar in one of my training programs is called Elegant Warrior Training, because that speaks to what I'm talking about. Having a life in balance is elegant. You're in the flow. You're not pushing. You're not straining to get results. But warrior means you don't just sit back and do meditation and yoga and expect to make 6 or 7 figures working part-time. Warrior means you have goals, you have dreams, and you have a plan to go after these goals and dreams. You take action. It's just how you take action in a way. I think of life as a HIIT training class, high intensity interval training. You have focus days and you have play days. You have power hours within the day where you're completely focused, pedal to the metal. I'm just going to work the phone or work the email. And then you have a 5 or 10 minute break. So it's about having this balance of male and female energy, which is elegant warrior training. And when you have all these 7 pillars of life in alignment, you are an elegant warrior. And how I teach these 7 pillars of abundance is I do group training where once a week for 7 weeks, we're focusing on one of these 7 pillars. We give you a lot of strategy in each of these areas. We give you homework to apply where you actually see immediate practical shifts in your life. And then we move on to the next area. Is your life, perfectly balanced in 7 weeks? No, but you have all the tools you need that if you keep practicing it, you will eventually achieve total balance in these 7 areas.
I love it. Could you answer the question about how people can work with you? Got it.
and I'd like to add something that I think you would agree with. If you do it, it's 100% success rate. Wouldn't you agree? If you do your program and you have these tools and you consistently apply these tools, it's not a question of if. It's 100% success rate. It'll happen.
Oh, yeah. I've had so many success stories of people meeting their soulmate, decluttering a hoarder's house, getting over a 25-year depression. If you follow these principles, they work 100% of the time.
That's awesome.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, Rebecca, we're going to ask you now a question that we ask all of our guests, because we want to know more the personal side of you. And so if you could share with our guests any place that you visited in your life that you just really felt incredible about, what place would that be and why?
Well, I just got back from there a couple of weeks ago. I would say Cabo. I love Cabo because the energy there is so high vibe. People are in a great mood. It's tropical. It's fun. I just love the music, the culture, the colors. And I like that it's Southern San Diego. It's not so far from the United States that if something crazy happens, I can't get back. It's only 2 hours from LA by plane and I'm from LA. So I just love Cabo. It makes me so happy just even saying the word Cabo. I'm like, yes, Cabo.
Yeah.
Cabo's a great one.
When we ask that question, we literally see everyone's eyes light up because they get to talk about something they're really passionate about. And it lets people know a little bit of a different side of you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
And maybe gives them a goal to get somewhere they had never been before. So
absolutely.
Cabo's on the list, guys.
Yes.
All right.
Great.
Last question for you. Is there anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with, especially with respect to our theme for this season, which is making one bold move that changes things in your life?
I would say have a chicken list of things that you're really scared to do to advance your business. So is it going live? Is it doing a reel? Is it doing a TikTok? Is it doing a vulnerable story? Whatever it is it making a call to someone you would love to have as a client or a business partner that you're like, oh my God, this person would never want to work with me? Have a chicken list and do one thing every single day, or at least Monday through Friday, from your chicken list. So that would be my challenge and my wish for your listeners, that they write a chicken list and that they do one thing every day from the chicken list.
I love it.
That's fantastic. Never got that answer before. All right. Just a reminder for you guys, check out Rebecca's podcast, Balanced, Beautiful, Abundant. And then also follow her on Instagram, Rebecca E. Whitman. Rebecca, you are a breath of fresh air. You're a doll. We're so happy that you came on Be Bold Branding. Thank you for taking time with us.
Thank sure.
You. Thank you. I've enjoyed every minute with you guys. You guys are amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us on Be Bold Branding.
Brought to you by BrandFace, the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe.